could see my teachers were noticing something was going on, and I didn't want to end up in foster care, so I stopped going to school.
I left my home with the clothes on my back and my crappy old car. I drove as far as I could before I ran out of money, and now I'm sleeping in my car, trying to hide under the stuff in the back, so, people won't find me there.
People look at me like I should just go get a job and I'm being lazy. But I don't know how I am supposed to do that when I don't even have anywhere to take a shower or clean my clothes. I left home when I was 17. I didn't feel safe with the drugs going on in my house or the people my mom was bringing home. I'm not sleeping on the streets or at a shelter, but I don't have a home to go to anymore. So I guess I'm homeless. I just crash wherever I feel safe.
I think youth experiencing homelessness versus adults experiencing homelessness is very different. When we think adults experiencing homelessness, we think an adult on the street living in their car or living in inhabitable places. When we think of youth experiencing homelessness, I think it looks a lot more like youth couch surfing, going from friend to friend's house or family member to family member's house, making day-by-day decisions to get through and kind of masked from that overall community view of homelessness.
The number of youth experiencing homelessness is much higher than most people in our community would understand. At the end of each school year, for the past several, Thompson School District has had over 800 students identified as experiencing homelessness underneath the guidelines of the McKinney Vento Act.
The youth moves from one house to the next house, so friends to family, back and forth. They don't have a place to call their own, a place to put their belongings, a place to consistently know they have to eat and shower. The basic human needs that most of us take for granted every day are up in jumble for these youth.
Those basic things that we take for granted that those students don't get to do anymore. How can you invite a friend over? How can you do these things? How can you go out for the football team when you don't have a place to wash your uniform? All those small things that we don't think about as a community that we take for granted that these students are having to fight with every day.
When a youth is a student and they're in a school, they're a part of a system, during the day they have a consistent, stable, sustainable place to be. Once school is out, they may not have that place, and they're incredibly vulnerable when they are out in our community without knowing where their next place to take a nap or next place to go to sleep is going to be, or where they're going to get their next meal.
So a lot of the youth that we see that have instability at home and choose to run away out into the community are more susceptible to engaging with other adults or strangers. Sometimes that opens the youth up to be a victim of human trafficking. We have seen a lot of that increase in our community.
One of the scariest things about youth being on the run is their inability to access services. A lot of our kids who leave their home for whatever reason, they have mental health issues, they have substance use issues, they're struggling with something, and when they're, on the run, they're not able to access those services. Most of the services in our community are set up where you walk in with your parent, not you walk in by yourself. And there's a lot of questions that they don't want to answer, so they're not going to access services, which again creates this cycle where things just begin to, get worse.
In the cases that I've worked with, I've seen that a lot of the youth are struggling with direction, so case management, where they just don't know where to go, don't know how to access the resources. And because it's so new to them, they often are overwhelmed in the process, and it's paralyzing in some cases.
I think one of the things that just breaks my heart is sometimes families will come to us, in child welfare and sometimes delinquency, and just say, how do I make a referral on myself because I need help and I don't know how else to get it. And there should never be a world where child welfare and juvenile justice are the way to access services.
So the difficult part that the school district finds themselves in is that we have so many resources for students who are experiencing homelessness or going through other things in their life, but it's Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30. And it's so how can we as a school district think critically and think differently to help students and families have access to resources like the Matthews House to help them move forward out of campus and in essence support them beyond the school bell.
We aren't service providers. We're not set up to be that. Our goal and our focus is to be sure that students are safe and learning when they're with us in their schools. And so we can remove those barriers to keep them in school, but we are not able to provide any sort of overnight shelter type situation, any sort of stability in housing. In particular, when we're talking about unaccompanied youth that are under the age of 18, there's no place for them to go. And that's a problem. That's something that as a community we have to come together to solve, because these are our youth, these are our students, they're part of our community, and we need to be sure that they have a safe place, a welcoming place, and a stable place to be.